I'm coming to you today with something that I thought about. I was actually just sending this out to my family, but then I thought about, I might as well go ahead and make it a video. So there's sayings is something that I talk about in my book a lot. I actually use sayings and slogans and idioms in all of my training as part of my training programs. But I also talk about how in my book titled Train the Brain and the Body Will Follow, I talk about in the book how people use sayings that are common and they don't really put them into practice. They just use the sayings because they sound good, they're clever, and even if they do understand what those actual sayings mean or stand for, they still don't put them into practice. And then most of the time, people don't really have a clear understanding of how to put them into practice because, again, they may relate to on a certain level, but not on a deep enough level to where they understand how to put it into practice, right? They just say it because it sounds good, long story short. Today, one of those sayings actually popped into my head, and that saying is that that faith without work is dead. That faith without work is dead. People say it all the time. You may have heard it multiple times, may even use it like most sayings. And it came to me that most people probably have an idea what that means on a certain level, but not necessarily how to apply it and put it into the best practices. And another thing that I talk about in my book and in my training are best practices. I'm big on best practices across the board, whether it's business, whether it's training, coaching, whatever it may be. Best practices, personal life, best practices. So how to apply that saying across the board as a best practice. So most people would say that the saying faith without work is dead. Most people would say that that means that you have to take action when it comes to something that you're asking God for, or praying for, or meditating for, or manifesting, that there's some level of work that has to be done, some action that has to be taken. So that can easily be misused, misunderstood, or confused to mean that after you pray, you have to immediately take some action. Sometimes the best action to take is to continue to pray and meditate and wait for the right answers to come and pray for intuition, meditate for intuition, and also being able to be in touch with your subconscious and your conscious mind so that you can really make a chess move and make your next move your best move, which is another saying. So faith without work can definitely mean taking action. However, sometimes people take actions that end up being a waste of time or goes away from what they prayed for because they haven't really given themselves the time to figure out what type of action they should take. So yes, it can mean to take action in relation to something that a person is wanting, praying, asking for, manifesting. It can definitely mean take action to that thing as it relates to exactly what they're praying for. However, what came to me is that it's not just it's not just there that faith without work should be applied. On a deeper meaning and more beneficial, what it really means and how to really get the most out of the work that you should be doing, where the work should be placed, is in working on yourself. You understand? If you're a spiritual person, if you're a religious person, if you are a person in tune with your own spirit, then understand that working on yourself is the best work you could ever do. Whether you're praying for a particular thing or not, the work should always be, and there's always an opportunity. There's always work when it comes to working on yourself. Just like when people are talking about moving to certain areas of the country, they're like, there's always work in this area. You can always find a job. Well, there's always work to be done when it comes to working on yourself. And it's great work. It's beneficial. It's a blessing to be able to recognize the work that needs to be done and be able to do it, of sound mind, body, and spirit, to be able to do the work. But God rewards that work in such an amazing way that it is remarkable. It's a blessing. You understand? You can be praying for whatever it may be, but after you finish praying, and even before, you should be in the practice of, because it's best practice, of working on yourself, because that's what God rewards, you working on yourself and becoming the best version of yourself. Remember, mindset is the most important set. Train the brain and the body will follow. Let's get it.